Hello. So I am finally making another BJD video for the first time in a very long time. Um, my health wasn't great, and I was kind of just frustrated with how everything went when I ordered and attempted to cope, adjust, whatever, with the resin sole that I made a video about. And I will be making another video kind of updating on that whole thing. But anyhow, I am back and trying to enjoy the hobby while I feel well. And so with that in mind, I thought I would do one of the reviews that I keep saying that I'm going to do. Um, and I'm going to start with the oldest doll that I have. Not that I've owned him the longest, just that he is, to my knowledge, physically the oldest doll. And that would be the 73 centimeter Dika Doll Murong version 2. Um, he was made, I think, in 2011. I purchased him in 2014 from my friend, and he actually shows up in a video when that happened. And since I'm getting back into everything, I was like, all right, cool, I'll do a bunch of face-ups and get everybody clean and ready to go, and then I'm starting to do that, and I'm realizing, crap, most of my supplies are, not viable anymore, or I straight up lost them. So I get all that sorted, I'm all excited, and then it rained. And it stopped raining, and the sun's out a little bit, but it is definitely still too humid to be doing spraying sealants and things. So, video. Yeah, I will say up front that I adore him. He's really good for just, you stand him down and he'll stay there pretty much forever. I'll use him to prop up some of my less stable dolls, and I've also gotten him to hold up a USD. Well, I imagine he could probably do it with a couple of them. Maybe not my heaviest USD because they're kind of chonky, but yeah, he'll stand there and hold them up, and it's really nice. I'm gonna start from the bottom and try to find a way to support his ridiculously long legs. All right. So for the ankle, also, actually beforehand, that's not going to work. I can't show you because he's too long, but he has some fairly detailed sculpting on his toes, which are kind of cute. For the ankle, tilting his toes up doesn't really do that. And then pointing just a little bit. But honestly, with how stable he is standing, I think the trade-off is more than worth it. He's not a ballerina, so that doesn't bother me any. I can stand him on one arm of my chair, and then his ankle is in view. That's how long his legs are. He has very long shins, and I only bring this up because one of them, the channel for the elastic, is curved, which makes stringing that particular one kind of obnoxious. And if you don't know that it's curved and you try to do it normally and you are struggling with your friend for the very first time restringing a doll, then it's particularly stressful. But yeah, it can be worked around if you're prepared for it and you know what you're doing. So the second time, I actually restrung him completely by myself, which is kind of an accomplishment for me anyway, because there's just things you have to know how to do and be ready for that are kind of hard by yourself. Knees are double jointed, them flat, the first bend, and then the second one it goes about that far naturally. Obviously, if you pop the joint out a little bit, it goes further, but either way, it really only goes that far because of the sculpting on his calves and thighs. And he does sort of have a little bit of a pointy, I don't know, wrong way. It's not really showing very well, and it's not even that pointy. I've seen much more prominent knee caps or whatever, but just a thing to point out. His thighs are, they have the rotator joint, mobility joint. There we go. And they do lock slightly in a properly oriented way, but they spin pretty easily, and you can spin that all the way around. And I like the level of friction when it's locked correctly, because it's just enough that you don't get his foot spinning around when you're trying to put pants on him. But it's not so difficult that he collapses when you try to pose him when he's, you know, doing stuff. Also, for the pulling it out, he can do a high kick. His legs don't really stay stuck straight out just because they are so heavy, because there's just so much of them. Speaking of his weight, though, he does weigh less than a lot of similarly sized dolls. I don't know why, because he's quite, like, the resin is quite thick and solid. He's not at all fragile. I noticed that. And then his hip, the ball of his hip, there's a very slight, I don't know, I can't see around him, like ridge right there, very slight, and that is sort of like the mobility joint where it just sort of keeps it where it's supposed to be naturally, but it's also very easy to take it and spin it and move it and point it. He has a 3-part torso. Gosh, he's so huge, like I'm having trouble seeing around him, I can't tell. He gets the most movement out of his lower joint, which isn't always the case, but for him it is. He, let's see, goes to side just a smidgen. But forward, he goes pretty far. And then back pretty far. He does not go side to side, like, it doesn't happen in the top joint. Hang on. It is a little bit easier to pose him in real life when you're not, like, flailing him around in front of a camera, but there we go. Top joint moving forward, leaning forward. Come on now. And then backwards. And he does have a pretty long torso. But it's proportional for how the rest of him is. It's just, I had him in parts the other day, and I was looking at him, I was like, huh, now that I'm just looking at your torso, I realize it's pretty long. But I think, at least in my personal opinion, he avoided that stretched out alien look that some of the tall dolls get. They just look, it just makes me think of the Greys from Roswell. Like, that's the only thing I can see when I look at them sometimes. But yeah, that's just my take on his proportions. For his shoulders, he has this little extra cup piece thing. I don't know what that's called. And this stays, like, you just sort of, well, now that I said that, it's not doing it, but. I think actually his arms are a little bit loose. I don't know that I got them quite correct when I restrung him, but like that a little adjustment of that will have him go back to where his arms are just as solid as the rest of him. That's more of a me issue than a sculpt issue. Elbows, he doesn't have super prominent elbows like in the sculpting when it's closed or flush, or I don't know how to say that. I know some dolls get this like bony protrusion where you might want to go to a doctor about that, but they are double jointed. Double jointed, they bend. It's great. Sculpting on his hands is nice. I like the details. He doesn't have sausage fingers or anything like that. And they're pretty expressive, even though they're not. What I'm trying to say is they're expressive without being stuck in a very specific pose, which can be kind of, bad or good depending on how that goes. He did actually come with another set of hands that's flipping the bird on both of them, which I find kind of amusing, so there's that. For his mobility in his head, he can look straight down, which is kind of interesting. There's a little bit of a bump, but, any wig will pretty much cover that up. He doesn't really look up like that. That's it. Side to side is fairly standard, head tilt. And then, of course, his face, which is lovely. I enjoyed it. I'm trying to find an angle that doesn't completely wash him out, which doesn't seem to exist. But anyways, he does look a little bit alien-y right now. But he has very deep right, like, eye sockets or something. I don't know. That were kind of tricky to get some of that really old sealant and face up out of, just because it'd been there so long and it was such a tiny crevice, but whatever. I think I'm just rambling about my trials and tribulations as opposed to giving a proper review at this point, so I apologize for that. But his head cap is, here, let me go this way. You tip or tilt the top of it to the side, and then you unhook it, so you can't pull straight back. Which it's a very simple thing, but if you don't know, you're sitting there for like 45 minutes going, how in the heck do you take his head cap off? And inside is super normal, and yeah, nothing really to say there. Come on, there we go. So that is my review. Sorry, just getting him situated. Yes, that's my review. I think it's a fantastic sculpt. I think its stability is super impressive. I'm not sure what body it is at this point. Like, if you were to try and find it on Dika Doll's website, I don't know the numbers or what it used to be or anything. But it's relatively distinct, so, I'm not sure where I'm going with that. But yes, that's my review, and I will be doing others for other dolls soon. And I have a box opening that I'm not sure if that's going to be posted before or after this, but there'll be a box opening coming soon. And thank you for putting up with my somewhat rambling review, and I'll see you in the next video.